Hi everybody, good afternoon. Father David here. This is St. Andrew's Episcopal Church, and these are your noonday prayers for Thursday the 25th. And as always, we do a little devotional time, and then a little prayer time. Sorry I was a little late getting on today. You know, stuff happens. So, thanks for being here. I want to reflect with you all just a little bit and maybe give you a little encouragement. And that's simply to say that I find and I think that the most important thing we do in life is to stay present to God as an individual person, and then go do whatever your bliss is, or whatever your joy is, or even whatever your duty is with that presence. So that there really is no separation between what is, sacred time and secular time. There's no difference between being in church and being in a laundromat, or cleaning the kitchen floor, or driving your kids to school, or visiting your grandparents in the nursing home. If you're doing something with presence, that means with the consciousness of God, the mind of Christ, well, then whatever you're doing is God's will. If you do it with God's presence, that is God's will for you at that moment. If you have a flat tire and you're stuck on the side of the road and you have to do it, you don't want to do it, and you say, well, is this God's will for my life? I would say, it is for the moment. This is God's will. Let's do it with some serenity and peacefulness, acceptance. Put the tire on the car, and then go back to whatever else you were doing. So, I just want to affirm you then and say you don't have to be doing something spectacular like changing the minimum wage for workers, or going on strike for women's rights, or writing sacred music that will last for centuries, or whatever we think is important. I think whatever the moment brings us is the most important thing right then. And if we are able to do that with presence, and able to do that with the mind of Christ, well, that's how God actually operates in the world. So that everything becomes sacred, everything becomes holy, and not in some sanctimonious, kind of prissy way where we all walk around saying Om or the Lord be with you every time we do something. It's just bringing a sense of joy and life and goodness to everything. You are like the light of the world, not just the light of, special holy times or holy places. I bring that up a little bit because coming up is Holy Week and next week, and some people think that's like the most holy time, the most special sacred time. We've got to go do a lot of special religious things. I would just say, as much as I appreciate remembering the life and the death and the resurrection of Jesus, the other 51 weeks of the year are just as holy as Holy Week. Jesus is living and suffering and dying and rising all the time in other people, in this world. Not just the historical Jesus, but the Christ is always dying and suffering and then rising. So when you serve and are with other people and they're dying and rising, and as you're just going through your regular day, that is holy time and that's sacred time. I'll try to remember that too. It's the little things make up 98% of life. And we're just trying to make those little things as sacred and holy as we can, not by saying prayers over them all the time, but just by being God's living presence in the moment. So thanks for listening to that little homily. Don't mean to sound so preachy today. Nevertheless, it's time for us to go to our contemplative time, take a few conscious breaths, try and get out of our heads, get into our hearts, connect with the living God, just for this noonday prayers. So we offer this time to God, intentionally invoking and calling on the living God, the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit, and we begin our quiet breathing time together. Remember who you are in God, just for now.
For many of us, this moment feels chaotic and terribly stressful. Join us for a few moments to turn inward and connect to your innermost you. Gently close your eyes and feel the gentleness of breath inside your body as you repeat these words. My deepest me is love. My deepest me is whole. My deepest me is limitless. My deepest me is infinite. My deepest me is compassion. My deepest me is sacred. My deepest me is mystery. My deepest me is forgiveness. My deepest me is beauty. My deepest me is God. My deepest me has knowledge to give. I open my heart and listen. For many of us, this moment feels chaotic and terribly stressful. Join us for a few moments to turn inward and connect to your innermost you. Gently close your eyes and feel the gentleness of breath inside your body as you repeat these words. My deepest me is love. My deepest me is whole. My deepest me is limitless. My deepest me is infinite. My deepest me is compassion. My deepest me is sacred. My deepest me is mystery. My deepest me is forgiveness. My deepest me is beauty. My deepest me is God. My deepest me has knowledge to give. I open my heart and listen.
Welcome back, everyone. Thanks for spending a little time with me this morning or this afternoon with the noonday prayers. I hope the little devotional is good for you. Of course, I hope the practice is good for you. Do whatever practice you can as often as you can. Just remind yourself of how good you are, how sacred you are, and that you are already God's children in this world. It's so easy to forget. Just remember who you are at all times, as best you can, and that'll take you a long way. Goodbye for now, everyone. This is Thursday, so I'll be back with you on Sunday morning for the Eucharist at 8:30 and 11. Evening prayers will continue tonight and tomorrow night, 7:30. Take care, everybody. Have a great weekend. Bye for now.